If you're looking for a slick way to insulate and put down a subfloor in your van, this is it. It's multiple layers while still staying relatively thin so it doesn't eat up that precious floor to ceiling space. Welcome to the channel, everyone. This is video 8 in the build series where we're building out a Mercedes Sprinter 170 extended camper van. Today we'll walk through how to insulate and install a subfloor to give you a great foundation for the rest of your camper van build. First things first, you'll need a few things. A couple of different types of adhesives. I use 3M90 and PL marine sealant for different parts of the subfloor. You'll need good scissors, spray paint, some type of saw to cut the subfloor, plywood, and a joining tool, and I'll talk about those in a minute. First thing to do is to prep the floor. We want to reduce the potential for rust as much as possible. So clean the floor, look for rust, sand it if necessary, and then go over the sanded spots and any bare metal with paint. I just used a Rust-Oleum white spray paint. It doesn't matter much as it will be covered. I just need to get rid of the rust and bare metal if there is any. Now on to step 2, the Minicell foam insulation. We bought sheets of Minicell in a couple different thicknesses. First, we used 0.3 inch thick sheets to cut into strips and put in between the ribs of the van floor. This gets the most insulation value without impacting the overall height of the subfloor. We use 3M90 spray adhesive here for this. And just a note, anytime you use adhesive or anything in the van, it's important to make sure it's intended for the extreme temperatures the van could experience. For example, it could be 100 degrees outside, and if the van's closed up in the sun, the interior could climb to well over 100 degrees. So you need to ensure that whatever you use can withstand that kind of temperature. And 3M90 actually says on the can that it's rated for up to 250 degrees. So I should have no issues there. Also, you can see here the center rib is deeper than the others, and it has a different thickness at different depths. So you have to put 2 strips in here at different widths to get it all to match up. Not a big deal, just something to keep in mind. Also, just a note about these metal plates. This van will have 4 additional seats in the back here behind the cab, and those plates are for those seats. So I'll show more about that in a later video as well. And as I go through this, you can see there are a few other areas that need special cuts or shapes to make it all work. Again, not a big deal, just need to do it. The next layer to go down is called 3M Thinsulate Acoustic Insulation, or TAI. This stuff was recommended by DIY Van, and it's pretty remarkable. So when I stand without shoes on the bare metal seat bases, I can really feel the cold coming up through into my feet. But when I put a layer of this stuff down between, you just don't feel the cold come in. So it's pretty nice how thin it is, but still provides that thermal insulation. So cut this to size and cover the entire van floor. The final layer of floor insulation is 1/4 inch thick Minicell foam. Basically, this is the same stuff we put into the ribs of the floor, just a bit thinner. Just cut to size, make any cutouts you need, and put it into place. The final layer of the subfloor is the actual plywood. For this, I used 3/4 inch Baltic birch. You can see I cut it to shape just like the foam insulation and then lay it on top. Now, this is expensive plywood, but it's great stuff. The reason this is expensive is that Baltic birch is made to a better standard. It's got fewer voids in between those different sheets of the plywood, which makes it stronger and less susceptible to warping. If you're going over the top of the subfloor with thin flooring, right, it's super important that it's solid and you don't have any warping. So you do have to go to a lumber yard to get this. The standard Lowe's, Home Depot, or or whatever typically won't have it. At least around here they don't. And this plywood is beautiful, right? So I'm not really the woodworking type, but you walk into a lumber yard with this specialty wood, and it's pretty amazing, right? The quality of some of this stuff. So it's really pretty. So I would say spend the money here if you can, so you don't have to worry about issues in the future. And a few things to note as I installed the final few layers of the floor. First, I put the Thinsulate sheet, the 1/4 inch foam, and the plywood on all together, right? One section at a time, and then worked my way back to the next sections of the van. The reason for this is that, so I'm not walking on the foam or the Thinsulate. I just found it easier to do it this way. Second, I wanted a couple of electric wires to come up in the middle of the floor to feed a 12 volt and 110 volt outlet that I'm going to have in the seat consoles. So I had to run those here also before the floor went down. And make sure if you do this right to appropriately protect the cable with whatever cable wrap is needed for your situation. And then the third thing that I did was used a 1/4 inch piece of cedar plank underneath where the pieces of plywood subfloor were joining. This gave me a solid surface on the edges of each piece of plywood, so the ply wouldn't raise or lower unevenly as it was walked on. It also gave me something to glue the plywood down to. I didn't screw the subfloor into the van floor. Again, I didn't want to poke holes in the van unnecessarily. And with the subfloor glued down and all the other things on top of the floor that are bolted into the walls, etc., the floor is not going to go anywhere. So the other thing I did here as I worked my way back and added each next piece of plywood is I actually joined each of the pieces of plywood in several places with dowels. So I researched a bit on Craig joiners, biscuits, and settled on dowels as being the most effective join for my situation. I did use a tool called Dowel Max to make sure that the dowel placement was perfect so that those plywood pieces would match up perfectly, right? And then as I added another piece of plywood, I would use wood glue in the dowel holes and PL marine sealant to glue the plywood to the cedar plank at the joint. I'll have links to all of this material in the description below also if you want to check that out. You can see here I put part of my toolbox on it as it dried overnight just to ensure it was good and settled as the wood glue and the PL marine sealant dried. The seams really came out great, no issues. We'll see also later how the flooring goes over it with no seams visible as well. And that's it, subfloor's in. You can see how it looks. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I always appreciate getting to this point in the build because for one, it's really visible progress, right? And it gives you something nice to walk around on as the rest of the van is being built out. So let me know if you have any questions or comments. And as always, like and subscribe and turn on notifications as we have several more build videos that we're working on. So thanks for watching.